I never see Drew's, so I actually should look at it. What is it?
I gotta hide it before you can see.
Oh no! Now I have to watch it again. I don't play the bass. For those of you that are curious,
I thought that was great.
And I definitely don't gallop the bass. That's what they mean when they say you gallop on the guitar, right? For those of you that play a stringed instrument out there, that is not what it means when you gallop. It is a thing where you go. It's like triplets offset by one note or something. I don't know. Our guest might be able to tell us more about that because he is also a guitarist. Wow, I'm out of breath from that. Give me a sec. Drew, do you want to intro us?
That's a little embarrassing. I can't do the full intro, but welcome back to 100X Engineering. I am one of your co-hosts here, Drew Johnson, joined by Carter, who is catching his breath and is now ready to give the full intro.
Yo, this is Hester2 coming at you with a brand new episode dropping this week live on Twitch, YouTube, LinkedIn, all the hottest networks. Don't forget to smash that. Oh, we're doing the outro thing. I'll do that later. Pause. Welcome to the show where you're going to be not a 1X, 10X, but 100X engineer. Our CEO, beloved Commander-in-Chief Erkong, made a post on LinkedIn saying he was going to try and be a 10X engineer this year. Or a 10X CEO. And a 10X engineer. Why not? Shoot for the moon. But 10X CEO, I kind of called him and said, I'm contractually obligated, legally required by the 100X brand to say, like, 10X is not high enough.
I thought that was funny. I gave you a like or whatever the LinkedIn laughing emoji is. I gave you one of those, I think.
I need to look at that now. I need validation.
Solid meme for LinkedIn.
People
if there is such a thing.
Chum replies, $6 like my comment. Yes.
That's basically viral in LinkedIn world. So
thank you for the support. Drew, for end of year performance reviews, I will make sure to include that in your notes.
That's why I'm here.
Banter, did you do anything cool for Thanksgiving?
Not really. Did the basic spend time with family. Yeah, how about you?
Spent time with family, but that is not basic. That's fun. I think when I was telling the team I was going to be out, I was like, yeah, I'm going to take some time off so I can spend some time working on hobby projects. And everyone thought I was going to stay with my family.
Yeah.
So I wrote some C++ over the break because I wanted to feel again, I guess. It was actually really fun, though. Unreal Engine's all C++, so I did that. I actually used ChatGPT, which we'll have an episode about in 2023.
Really?
Asked it, hey, can you make a projectile component that I can attach to an actor that will make it, that already exists, but it was like, can you write like a new projectile actor for me, something like a bullet or a missile or something like that? And it did it. It wrote the C++. I was like, okay, cool. Can you write the header file for me as well? And I was like, yeah. I was like, can you make it where like these ones are protected instead of public? I was like, yep, here you go.
So what I'm hearing is ChatGPT wrote your code and you were just guiding it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty sick.
So, Blockade coming at you 2023. That will be written by ChatGPT and Carter. Anyways, that's a shitty game. It would go great on the show. No offense to the people that will be playing or the game that we'll be playing today, because that game slaps. I think we're ready to intro our guest. Would you agree? The hour is nigh. Let's, without further ado, I'll allow them to introduce themselves. I'll give a brief introduction. This is a person that I've only recently met remotely, never met in person, but seen and admired from afar. I have followed their YouTube channel. They have been my muse for inspiration and speaking at Utah.js. Currently a director of engineering at Travel Pass Group. Give a round of applause for Neil Over, everyone. Neil, welcome to the show. Oh, Neil is gone. Where'd he go?
Oh, just had to take the elevator up from my basement.
Oh man,
understandable.
An office.
Everyone
wants a corner office. It's all about the foundation. That was so much cooler in my head, and then because I'm like, where's the standing desk? Yeah,
that was an impressive elevator though. I just tried to do the escalator and that like destroyed my kneecap. So there goes what's my new excuse for not working
all those squats.
Yeah. I can't work out today because I hurt my knee doing an escalator gag on the stream.
Yeah. Went too hard on the escalator lift, boys.
Yeah, when you get to be my age, you understand these kinds of things don't come to you naturally. Aside from your ability for fantastic physical humor, tell us a little bit more about yourself, Neil.
So my name is Neil. I am currently a director of engineering at Travel Pass Group, like you mentioned. I don't know. I I have a electrical engineering degree, and only occasionally get to use. And I either talk guitar amplifiers with people. I've built like, I don't know, 20 tube amplifiers,
Oh, cool.
and occasionally I'll tell people like about like AND gates and OR gates, and we'll talk transistors, and they'll wonder why they ask me these questions as their eyes glaze over. But yeah, and I, in some ways, like I've been bouncing around like the technology world at this weird like juxtaposition of like I like tech stuff well enough, but it's like my like ADHD brain will like see immediate problem and be like, okay, now I want to go like do something radically different. And it's like, yeah, it turns out that's not super helpful for building a career. But all the while, I really enjoyed building the relationships along the way and getting to know people, getting to see different kinds of people, different backgrounds, experiences. And so what I feel like I've lighted upon is like this, like, wait a second, engineers are people too, and we need some training, just like all people do, on how to like, yeah, like how to get along with each other, but also challenge each other so we grow instead of just like everything's okay, you're wonderful, you're perfect, I'm perfect too, because we don't believe that, right? Especially engineers are highly analytical and trained to be such. And so yeah, doing this weird like, how do I keep enough engineer street cred so I'm believable, but still talk about the lofty things of like building relationships and stuff, which is kind of a weird thing to chat about. So
The non-technical aspect of our engineering jobs, right? But I feel like that's. I think there are many things. I'm highly opinionated on what separates a coder from a developer, or a developer from like an engineer. Those things is like engineer does more than write code, but we will get into that in a second.
Right.
I'm going to intro our game really quick. Thank you for that fantastic introduction. Tyler, if you could release the hounds or the chat, the game. Oh, we have a message in the chat. Okay, yeah, it's from. Cool. It's from Jupiter One. Thank you, Jupiter One. Sponsored by Jupiter One. Yeah, Tyler, if you could release the link to the game. All right. So we're going to be playing Gun Night. This is based on Miami Hotline Miami. I actually don't know what that is. But I love it because the theme or the aesthetic, the music slaps on it. It is great. And it's extremely simple. So when you join, make sure you click this button right here to where it says US server. If we could also have that dropped in the chat, Tyler would just say like join US server. So brief instructions, you run around and shoot each other. All right, yeah, doing that was okay. I've got the crown though, and yeah, oh gosh. You walk around and pick up bullets and then shoot. And that's it. So it's going to be, I guess, I killed someone on accident. Cool. Anyways, man, this might be a hard one for me to talk and play at the same time. And just have some people join us.
It's perfect. Oh,
yeah. All right. So getting started with our actual stream here, the meaningful content. So Neil, you gave a talk. I've seen you give 2 talks, and I've loved both of them. First one is timely feedback. The second one, which has been at this point of the year, but the second one was on, what was the name of the talk actually? Pull request: A Way to Better Culture and Relationships by Neil Oler. I really liked it.
Thank you.
You talked about a bunch of stuff. So like you mentioned, like the soft skills side of things, and like how you can use pull requests as a mechanism or a way to be able to improve your relationships and your culture at the company. We're going to dig into more of this as we go, but let's establish kind of a baseline. Like, what are some of the attributes of a terrible coder view? Like, bad pull request experience that we should avoid. Let's use that as kind of a launching off point.
Well, yeah, and like, I mean, in the talk, I kind of like lampoon the idea of like, hey, idiot, your code blows. I mean, like, there's ways to obviously be like so obtuse as to your humanity that it's like, yeah, clearly that's not very fun. But and occasionally, like, I've only known like one person that comes to mind that truly like tried to like tell me it's good to like be that toxic at work. It's like, no, you grow. And I'm like, you grow a thick skin, or you like grow like PTSD, like, but that's not growth,
I'll see
right?
the
Like,
deep end without the floaties. They can do it.
yeah, I was like, no, just because like you survived, that doesn't mean you like thrive. Yeah, that was a weird combo. But for the most part, like everybody understands that's not the way to do it. But like terrible pull requests end up being either like I approve everything and I don't care, or I like basically like we all come to the pull request with our own expectations, but we haven't ever like chatted about them or discussed like how we could like align those expectations. And so, I mean, basically a terrible pull request is when everyone gets together and we all just say, well, I hated that. Like he was too
Let's not
nitpicky
do that
and
again.
yeah, right, exactly. And she like didn't care and was so lackadaisical in review. And it's like, well, that was a waste of everyone's time for separate reasons. And yet ironically, like the same, foundational cause. So.
Right. That's funny because like it's both funny and not funny, right? Like feel the pain. Oh, you're back. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Back guns blazing.
This is so hard with a trackpad.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, I
Yeah.
can get a handicap of like 10 extra points. So in your talk, you compare. Oh my.
There's your handicap of 10 points.
Ooh, killed by a trackpad.
Killed by a trackpad. Insult to injury.
Oh yeah. I'm trying to read the prompt.
Carter, get your words out.
So okay, I'm getting wrecked here. You compare having a pull request partner to having like a sparring partner in like a dojo or in a dojo. I don't know the other one, or Septagon. Which I thought was like a really interesting thing, and you had a lot of good kind of extrapolations you made from that as well that I thought were really neat metaphors. Oh my gosh, what are some of the attributes of a good sparring partner? Like what would you say is like the baseline for a good sparring partner? How do I know if I am one of them?
Well, so I mean this idea I still like to point this out. This was a buddy of mine, Vicente. Like he's super. He lives in Baru, super Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and in talking to him, I realized it's like this is like the whole idea of like being a good like accountability buddy at work. Is basically like I want you to push back on me, but in a way that doesn't like kind of trigger my like weird like professional fight or flight part of my brain, right? And so like a good sparring partner is just somebody that you feel like you engage in technical discussions with, and even if you don't agree, maybe especially when you don't agree, you both come away going, yeah, okay, interesting. Like my perspective was enlarged. That was an engaging conversation where I like was challenged, and so like basically like had arguments were like, nah, that doesn't make sense to me. Like that we're not gonna, allow that wooden nickel to be accepted in this vending machine. And it's like, oh, okay. Well, what about this, right? It makes you have to reason through your thought process a bit more. That is like a sparring partner that is there not to like crush you, right? We're not reenacting Karate Kid. Just sweep the leg, right? It's much more like
him in the chin. I guess
right.
That guy sweeps the leg.
Right. It's just more like no, I'm not trying to break your bones, but if you're gonna phone it in, I'm gonna beat you because you're not trying hard enough. And so I'm going to enough of a resistance that I had to work for it. And if I win, then I won honestly, right? I came by the victory honestly. And if I lose, then I can discuss it and I can do so in a way that's like, okay, like you kicked my butt, but I want to learn from you. I want you to explain like how this didn't work out for me and, how like you think I could do better, what, your thought process was. And that's why Brazilian jiu-jitsu is such an interesting like analog for this, because at first, like me being the unlearned I don't know, fighter of Brazilian jiu-jitsu, because I've never done it before. It was just interesting to see that it's like, yeah, the goal is not to crush people, right? Like there's this idea of illegal moves. Like you're not allowed to pull hair or like rip on people's nose or, you know, like do things that like actually like hurt them. Though you may put them in a hole that causes discomfort, you're always supposed to keep it within the bounds of like, we're not trying to like make this feel like a life or death fight. So if you're
actual lasting damage on each other.
Right, exactly. If you break knees, it's like, oh my gosh, like you've done something terrible there. Don't create a work environment where your pull requests feel like, wow, I have to like break my legs just to get my code reviewed. Who wants to have their code reviewed in that environment, right? Ugh.
That's great though. I love that analogy. I can't think of have I given a pull request to you or have I given you feedback that feels like I'm breaking your knees?
No, and to be honest, I was trying to think about this because I guess we've been fortunate in the cultures I've worked with. I've never experienced this. So as you're describing it, it makes sense that a culture can get to a point where you're breaking each other's knees over code. Fortunately, we are way far from that Jupiter 1, and I'm not exactly sure. I'm trying to.
They have Neil.
What? I just died like 3 times. I need to focus on the game. Yeah. The thing that I'm trying to make the comparison to is it still does feel like sparring sometimes, especially when you're giving feedback for, I don't know, for things that are more opinionated, if that makes sense, that are almost like, this is the style of code I prefer. Oftentimes we find ourselves putting like nit or like, this is a nitpick kind of comment on a PR. Right. And those can kind of get confrontational. But again, I'm not breaking anyone's knees over something like that. So hard to relate to.
Well, and tell me, Drew, what if you help me understand more, what do you mean when you say confrontational? What kind of like how do those like nit comments or response or whatever, how do they get at least kind of in the realm of confrontation?
I think it's, as I'm trying to think this through on the spot, it depends on the dynamic often, which I don't know if that's appropriate or not. But if it's like, say, a senior engineer giving a nitpicky kind of tidbit of advice on a PR review to a more junior engineer, that might go differently than, say, 2 senior engineers that have a slight disagreement on how the code should be written. But that being said,
even the senior junior paradigm, is that more or less confrontational than 2 seniors?
It would be less confrontational in my experience. Okay. It would be more, you often find the junior engineer will kind of just fold and be like, okay, well, this person probably knows more than me. They're just going to go along with it. But even when those more well-founded opinions butt heads, Carter, you can't teabag in this game. Why are you trying?
Mind out of the gun. That's not a teabag. That's a victory dance.
I feel like it's never, and maybe the sparring analogy just I'm still not having a good time still not grasping it. It doesn't feel like it's confrontational.
Yeah. Well, and the reason why I ask is because like I have seen both of the scenarios you talked about go confrontationally. I feel like there's an extra LY there or something. It gone badly, right? And I've seen them go well, and like the real difference seems to be the rapport that the 2 people have before getting into pull request world, sense. Right? Because like if you both come in there going like, hey, I expect that you are going to critique me on things I can do better at. Right. I know a junior engineer now that like his attitude is very like, dude, rip my code apart. I fully want to get better. And if like even the smallest thing, if it can be better, like just tear it apart. And I know some other people that junior and senior that they just, by maybe not having a PR culture or being in that habit, even small little nitpick things, they're just like, I feel like you're like questioning my intelligence. You're like you're coming after me, the doer of the work.
Right.
And they haven't yet like learned how to separate themselves from like, if you write bad code, it doesn't matter what fancy diploma you have on the wall. No matter like what fancy diploma you don't have on the wall. Like if the code is not great, then the code's not great. And where it gets, I mean, nitpick stuff is like, that's a bit debatable. And so simply if someone says, well, you should do it this way. And it's like, well, is this an it? Are we both kind of understanding this is a small tweak of you could have to? And it's like, okay, I choose not to change it. And if the other person is going, well, it's actually not an it, it's actually like, I kind of want you to change it like for reals. It's like, oh, well then you didn't communicate that well enough. It needs to be a, this should change, right? But as long as like the expectations are the same from both parties, then and that to me is the sparring analogy of like if you came with ego and you're like, I gotta crush my opponent, right? Like I'm here to like prove my my manhood or coolness or like whatever you want to prove, right? Like, oh, I gotta win, right?
Nice, well-written JavaScript.
Right. Well, right. And it's, I mean, it's meant to be a on the nose ridiculous analogy there, right? But if you brought your ego to the pull quest and it's like, how dare you question, anything on like, I'm a freaking genius. It's like, whoa, this is just some code, right? And so if you both come with this, like, I'm trying to get better, you're trying to get better. If something looks weird, you're going to point it out. And if I think it doesn't need to change, I'm going to say, well, I don't agree with that. But we can spar without it becoming existential, without it becoming such a threat to our ego that it's like, oh my gosh, I can't talk to you again because you're too sensitive. Or like, oh man, you're too much of a jerk. Like, I don't know.
Right. Thanks for explaining that further, because it was almost so foreign to me, that mindset you're describing right there, because we have that culture where it's like, yeah, I mean, I could be the most experienced person. My code could still be trash on any given day. Like, I'm not going to be.
You're also a team lead, so you're the person probably giving the feedback that's making other people feel that way.
Oh, true. Maybe I'm
actually not saying,
so you're saying I'm the problem or I'm the solution.
Like, you're on like near the, you're farther up in the hierarchy for the record. So
right, but
Drew gives great feedback on his PRs, by the way. Drew is a peach, a cherub, and it is also
we need to pull in another person from my team and maybe have them confirm. But I think anyone on the team feels like they can speak up and give that feedback. Yeah, where's Carson? Ping him. Let's get him on.
Well, and that's good. I mean, that indicates that you have built the kind of relationships that everyone feels psychologically safe, so that they can say, I disagree, or like, this is not how I would do it. I don't know that I want to change it, right? And it's and that's where the sparring thing of like, if I'm trying to get better and you just let me win all the time, that ends up hurting my long-term goal of getting better. And same for you. So I don't want to wrestle like I've been doing jujitsu for 10 years and like Drew comes in with a week's worth of experience. Like, yeah, I beat Drew. Oh, I must be amazing. Like that's not fair, right? It's not helpful for Drew, because Drew feels like, oh my gosh, you just like trounced me, and like, how the heck am I supposed to get better here? I feel like hopeless, and I feel like undeservedly egotistical instead of confidence born of like, no, I've proven my abilities by interacting with people that push back on me enough that I go, yeah, I'm fairly confident this is effective. So
I'm going to want to explore a different thread with this here in just a sec, but there's a thing that I this is making me think of this thing. So like one of the big things, yeah, like you said, like the relationship and the trust that exists between the two partners, I think is like really important. And like that's what everything else is like predicated upon for this, right? Of like the understanding of what we're going into with this together and like those expectations. In The Sims, have you guys ever played The Sims?
I haven't. It's one of those like gamer embarrassments. Don't tell anyone.
Not a gamer embarrassment. Not a gamer embarrassment at all.
Tear a quarter off my nerd card.
I'll fill that one in on a bingo sheet. For anti-nerd bingo sheet. So, yeah, when you're building relationships with other characters in The Sims, there's two scores. There's like the short-term score and the long-term score.
Okay.
Long-term score takes a while to build up over time. You have to have repeatedly good days and good experiences. But the short-term score, they could hate you today, but like overall they're fine. Like they'll forget about it like in a couple of days. And like I think you have to bear in mind like both things. Like if you have that higher long-term score with your peers, you can have a little bit more wiggle room and a little bit more candor, I guess, in your PR comments. I would anticipate, bearing in mind though that you might be like, am I moving that forward or backward It's like, what am I actually trying to gain out of like, what am I trying to gain from like having a certain tone or not having a certain tone in this PR?
Sure.
But let's say I just had like a existential crisis moment where I was like, oh my gosh, I'm a bad sparring partner. Like I've just been a jerk. What can I do to improve that? And I guess the answer is obviously it depends. But like if you had to give some generic feedback on like patterns or for growth, like where could I start with like trying to evaluate that? And if you're like, Carter, that's a bad question. I know you spend like hours trying to think of it, but like let's not talk about it. Please tell me. But then I would say, Neil, that was well delivered feedback. Thank you.
Oh. Sorry, my phone just
died.
laid down. Totally decided to take a call from McRandos. Sorry.
Oh, no worries.
Repeat your question. If you were just saying.
Where did it cut out? Did you hear the question I asked, or should I?
I did not. I'm sorry.
Oh, no worries. I thought you were being very pensive on it. So,
yeah, I should have gone with it.
Let's say I just had this moment where I was like, shoot, I just like earth-shattering, like getting dizzy, like walls are going all over. I have been a terrible sparring partner. What can I do to improve? Like where, what things can I do if I'm a bad sparring partner to grow? Can I grow? Can I change?
Yeah, well, I've tried to study a lot about like various flavors of philosophy over the past year. And when I say study, I mean like watch YouTube videos, right? The deepest of PhD kind of activities. And it's certainly not everyone's opinion, right? That like people can, change their deepest core things. While I think you can allow that, like, yeah, there may be some like psychological proclivities and even like, psychoses that like, yeah, those are going to be tough to just like will yourself out of. I do think that approaching this kind of stuff with an attitude of like, I have some bad habits. I don't know how much I can change, but I'm going to try to at least have an attitude of, at least like withhold like fatalistic finalizing of like, I can never do this, at least, for a little while, right? Give it a day, give it a week, give it a month, and see where you come in that time. Yes, I totally think you could change. I think that is one of the most beautiful things about like the human brain is the like sociological neuroplasticity of being able to just say like, I want to be different, and then to really hone in on that. Now there are going to be systems that get you there more effectively and faster, and like a mental health professional working with that person will get you greater returns than just watching psychology videos on YouTube. But if you're at the I just want to watch psychology videos on YouTube to like learn how to do better, like you get it, like that's there, right? So yeah, I think like the first thing is recognizing that like if you're going, man, I kind of stink at this, it is okay to feel that way. It is okay to recognize the big gulf in between like you and like the person you would like to be as far as a sparring partner, as far as a coworker, or friend, or like romantic partner. And like honestly, like that's what I love about the building relationship thing for pull requests is like, spoiler alert, everyone else you interact with in life, they're human too. And so while you may not be having pull requests with your girlfriend or something, like you will still engage. Yeah. You will still be engaging in some of the same kind of like overall philosophies of like, you don't want to just like kowtow to like, yes, sweetie, like everything you say. It's like, no, that you're going to feel hollow after a while. And you also don't want to be, like approaching every, sometimes you need a scalpel, not like a chainsaw, right? And so like being able to approach that and say, so I'm a bit frustrated anyhow. Right. So yeah, Yes, you can change. You most certainly change. Will you be the best pull requester after a week? No, but you'll be a week better, and you'll be a week farther down that road of trying to evaluate what do I like? What do I not like about how I do this? How do other people respond to it? Do I want them to respond that way? Right? Like people seem to feel I'm confrontational, or people just seem like they don't want to talk to me for a few hours after I pull request, like review their code.
I think that's the title of the episode of Why Has Nobody Talked to Me After I Review Their Code?
Yeah, there you go. Right. And like, I think we've all probably done that at least like once. It's like, sometimes it's just as simple as like, go talk to the person you interact with the most on pull request and say, look, I want to get better here. And I'm worried that I might be behaving or communicating in a way that is confrontational, or is a turnoff, or is hurting feelings, or like, is just not doing the things that I want to do, which is make this a cool place to work and to be able to like get along afterwards, right? And like just like clear the air, talk about it, right?
Build that long-term relationship sim score.
Right.
No, I enjoy that. And I think like, yeah, what makes it, I think putting on the empathy goggles and like, it's really satisfying in this game when I see it flash red and it's like somebody just died. Just got
death. The empathy goggles. Cool. Death.
Feedback. Sorry, stepping back into my original thought. You're right. It's really putting on like the empathy goggles. Like I think what you're saying, like not just 100x engineering, but 100x human existing, of like how to not be an asshole to your neighbors and like your partners and stuff. Like I do think like having a general mentality of like empathy and also like shared goals and then like maintenance on a relationship and stuff. I think those are all important. I wanted to ask you so let me see if I can share the screen. Nobody kill me, okay? I'm gonna go hide. Don't stream snipe me. Words I never thought I'd be able to say. So we have a tool.
Clearly from the scoreboard, you don't have to get that from me.
I think I'm by myself. I don't have to worry about it from anyone. Okay, that's interesting. I'll rejoin in a second. Okay. Am I in the right game now? No, still by myself. Okay, strange. So, is my team positive or negative? This is I deliberately cut out all the names on here so I didn't want it to be damning to anybody. This is a tool that a certain department gave me to be able to evaluate sentiment analysis on pull request comments. What are your initial thoughts and reactions to A, the existence of this, and B, maybe the utility or anti-utility of it?
How, I mean, my first thinking is just like when it says sentiment analysis, right? Like what kind of things like bump it towards the positive? What kind of things bump it towards the negative? I mean, I can guess at them, but I just want to make sure that like, right, whatever the quiz taker, sounds like it might have been AI or something. Like, is it evaluating grammar? Is it evaluating grammar might be weird, but like, am I aiming in the right direction there of like, right? Like, hey, have you considered doing this versus like, this is dumb and needs to change or something?
Right.
Is it smart enough to tell the difference there?
That's the thing. Like, I'm curious because the tool doesn't give us. I'm not gonna say which tool because I don't think I'm legally supposed to. I don't know.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
But like, I don't think the tool gives you much to go off of for like how it generates the score, which I think is incredibly dangerous because if I'm a non-involved executive or person who likes to look at specific people in the engineering org, right, I could look at this and be like, hey Carter, it looks like Mr. or Mrs. Green, Mr. and Mrs. Dark Green, and Mr. and Mrs. Pink here need to like have some performance improvement chats about not being a jerk on their pull requests. But I know who each of the three individuals are, and I can tell you they're not. Like I think Drew mentions at the start, like I would talk very differently to Drew in a pull request than I would to Carson, one of like the more earlier engineers. who kicks ass for how new he is to like the industry. But I think it's a. I'll put this away now. I think it's an interesting. I think maybe I could use it for myself to track what does the computer think I'm saying, or like statistically speaking, am I sounding more negative than I mean to? Because maybe that could be like a good eye opener for me. Like maybe my tone is like analytically not great, but maybe or maybe I'm too nice in it and I'm not giving enough comments. Maybe there's too much fluff in there. I don't know what.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, there's value to it, right? I mean, it is a data point. I've got somebody on one of our front end teams at Travel Path that he mentioned that he has I think it's like an Amazon type watch, but it has it's like a vocal tone evaluation kind of tool or something on it. And so he will be like, okay, like, and he told me like, yeah, I went to go explain to somebody, and like, he had the like mental clarity to be like, I'm going to actually like start evaluating watch. And he came away and his watch was like, yeah, you were kind of like grumpy. Or yeah. I mean, but it was basically like, that was kind of like tonally like wasn't super great. So like the curious thing about this though is that like at some point the metrics are going to fail in the generic sense to fully encapsulate the individual nuances, right? And maybe that's a stupid like truism to say, because that like, yeah, welcome to data collection in the abstract. But what I mean is that like his watch could say, hey, like you were kind of a butt when you went and talked to Kim about code. But then if you go and say, hey Kim, like I'm sorry that like this was a thing, and it's like she's like, oh, I didn't mind, like it's fine by me, right? So there was a net positive there, even though like maybe the watch or the evaluation tool as a data point said, you might want to watch it, but you shouldn't throw that out entirely either, because maybe you come and talk to Neil, and Neil, I don't know, because Neil is a different person and has a different collective experience, right? And like you use the same tonality, Neil goes, wow, what a jerk that person is, right? It was a Simon Sinek, Sinek, I think is how you say his name, but he basically said like he thought he was such a great listener until he actually went and asked, like, I think he asked his wife or something, but like he asked somebody else, like, like, do you think I'm, and they're like, not really. and it was funny because of going like, this guy, like, to me, he's one of my like empathy heroes, right? But he was going, it occurred to me, and it was like embarrassingly late in life to realize this, like, wait, you're only a good listener if people say you're a good listener. Right? You are only empathetic in as far as other people feel empathized with. Right? And like, that's the curious thing, where you have to build the kind of openness where you can just say, hey, I'm going to be vulnerable here. I'm worried that we're kind of like, we got to clear the air a little bit, because I'm worried that like I'm being a jerk and you're just like smiling through it, instead of like really just like tell me what you think here. And I mean, I've told a couple of people recently, like on my team, that it's like, I think we're kind of grousing about some stuff, but like we need to have the guts to talk about it. I rather you like scream at me and like throw around obscenities than just like smile and nod through it. And I'm not saying screaming and like screaming and cussing people out of work is toxic and nasty, and like I'm not encouraging that, but at least then I go, okay, now I'm getting the real you, like the real feelings. Because if you're just like, yeah, everything's great, to be professional, it's like that's not helping you. And it's the fight or flight. It's the third option of just freeze, right? Where it's like, I guess I just won't do anything here. And like, until we really know, like, is this really being received by you? Is this really what you want? Do you think I'm obnoxious? And when you dive into that, there's a lot to understanding how to ask better questions too. I've realized that in one-on-ones with which is kind of like it's in a way like a PR type thing with like, you know, my team leads. If I just say, well, is there any like feedback? Do you have any, like, well, if they happen to have some negative feedback, like then it's like, this has been going well, and now it's like, hey, any random negative things to throw at me? Like, ooh, that feels a little harder. But if you say, hey, what is something I'm doing now that is like the most detrimental to you getting your job done, right? Like phrasing it that way, and then they're like, oh, well, you've already gone to the extreme and invited like what's the worst habit I have of communicating? Like, oh, well, now that you mention it, we could talk about something. And if they're going, actually, like, I really am okay, you can at least know, like, I tried to take it there, and you can't wring it out of them. But at some point, you know, like you can trust that, like, I was asking guided, effective questions.
I think we're coming up on time here really fast, actually. Man, this is a really interesting conversation. I've enjoyed this. I've also had my ass handed to me by Drew.
I just gave up a little while ago. I'm sorry.
No, you're
sorry.
fine. You're fine. I let Drew and I duke it out. Don't do it. Surprise. So I want to ask you. So let's tackle like two more questions, and we'll wrap up here in the next couple minutes. But I think this is like a good segue into, like, you mentioned like the difference between nice and kind in our prep call. Would you mind like expounding on that a little bit, and then we'll wrap after that one? But I think that's a really interesting concept that I think ties into what you're discussing here.
Yeah. So I think I made somewhat of a joke of this. That Utah in particular, right, which is where I am, like our state export is passive aggressive, right? And it's funny because I'm like, yeah, but it's kind of like I'm a salesman of that too, right? Where like I don't want to rock the boat. I avoid confrontation. I'm conflict averse, right? Adverse. So like people are like, they present some hot take on something. I'm like, it causes me discomfort to respond to that and be like, well, I guess let's fight now, right? So I'm like, nah. No, sometimes you may go, like, I'm not saying we need to engage in every, you know, debate, or, you know, sometimes like discretion really is the better part of valor. But at least when it comes to our peers, right, to people that like report to us or we report to, and we see something that's like, look, this is something that's getting under my skin. Being kind, if you truly do care about that person and want that person to get better, then it is a disservice to just keep smiling and nodding through dysfunctional behavior. Right? Because again, to go back to like the sparring thing, if you keep
somebody walk around with their fly down, right? Like
kind of right. Having thing of Spanish, you know, with their teeth. Right. Yeah. Right. It's like, well, thank goodness I didn't, you know, rock the boat and, you know, bring up this awkward thing. It's like, yeah, but then they walk off to a business meeting with the CEO of some partner company and look like a dingus. Like, do you feel good now? Like, oh, thank goodness I didn't have to have this awkward conversation. But you let them down. Like, you could have helped them, and you, I mean, kind of like in the short term, you were just scared of that meter going down a little bit, and so you sacrificed the long term because it was comfortable for the now, and it's not easy. But the difference is critical to explore as a personal thought process of like what is nice for me and what is kind to me. Also, I mean, I will also say that I have found it much easier when I think of like, oh, this behavior this person is doing is really frustrating, right? He's not speaking up in meetings. She is overly aggressive in her comments. You know, they're critiquing things on pull requests that just seem too, you know, nitpicky, but they're demanding changes. To be able to stop and go, if I just take that and go, hey, you're doing this behavior, bleh. Like, that's not going to drive a change, because you're just saying, I keep seeing you behave this way and I don't like it, so stop. But you don't know why they're behaving in that way, right? They may think they're actually being kind themselves. So taking like the time to go a little deeper and say, why, like, I see this as a behavior. Can you tell me like what is driving that? Can you help me understand, like, because I see it cause some friction, and that friction is getting in your way of building like relationships with other people at work, which is a big component of career progression, because people tend to want to work with people they enjoy working with. So what, you know, like what's driving this? And I've meeting over the past like few years in a few different places, I've had to have like, and people have had to have conversations with me that occasionally go, I'm seeing this like dysfunctional thing. It becomes a lot easier when you can truly approach it from I am concerned your behavior is limiting your success rate or your ability to be successful. That is why I'm bringing it up. And now I want to talk about it honestly and openly because I actually care about you. So.
I really like that. I like to wrap the show up asking, like, Neil, say something profound. And I think you just did. Like, you got ahead of the curve, man. Certainly like that. Yeah, I think that's applicable in more areas than one. And the other question is like, what can I do to be like a 100x engineer? Like in relative to the topic of the show. And I think that also fits the bill for both of those. So top marks for like 3 birds with one stone. I don't like killing birds. 3 tickets closed with 1 PR.
Yeah, there we go. Hits me right where I live.
Yeah, we'll speak the truths. Neil, this has been fantastic. I've really enjoyed chatting with you, man. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me on. I really share these thoughts, and I'm humbled to be with you guys. I appreciate it.
Our 2.4 million viewers will thoroughly love this. Okay, we've got some great comments coming in, by the way. Some excellent audience participation.
I know.
All right, we got. Sorry, I'm going to say Jamaica farmers. Okay. I responded with this. Okay, yeah. Shout out to Jamaican Farmers Hut. Oh no, where are these coming from? Tyler, help.
Tyler, please.
There's like 10 of them. Okay. So if you're doing a new adult dating chat,
algorithm with relationship improving. Not that kind of relationship
thing. Like one of our maybe Drew, do you think some of our 2.4 million followers are bots?
What? How could this be?
we have to investigate deeper.
Welcome to 100x Engineering, the show where you're given options about what dating services to use. Love our community. Neil, wrapping up on a positive note, man. Thoroughly enjoyed chatting with you. Thanks for coming and playing games with us and for the excellent, stimulating conversation. We will talk to you later. Have an excellent afternoon.
Okay, you too. Thank you, Carter. Thank you, Drew.
All right. See you later.
Oh, man, that was intense. That was way more than just about PRs. I wasn't prepared for how deep that went.
Wait, say that last part again.
I wasn't prepared for how deep that conversation went, and I feel like there were so many more things we could have talked about. That was intense.
Good. I'm gonna take notes. I'm gonna be a better engineer, manager, gamer, father after this conversation. Like all the above. Neil Oler, a 100x engineer, ladies and gentlemen. I still can't get over the content here. We have something to the content of in the chat. Tyler's blocking them now. Okay. Neil has he posts art, takes DMs on Instagram. I'm gonna drop a link to his page here at Neil Oler. Check him out. Neil's a super cool guy. I'm also gonna post a link to his YouTube channel. Let me find that really quick. I thought I had that. Oh, there it is. Here's the link to Neil's YouTube channel. Instagram. There we go. But yeah, I follow him on Instagram. He's got some funny content out there. He's got some cool stuff, some interesting projects he's working on, and just interesting musings. If any of the things that he's talked about today like rocked your world, you should hear some of his other musings that he shares on the channel. It is a charm in my feed. I find it charming every single time. I really enjoy it, and it's insightful as well. So check him out. Neil's a super cool guy. If you didn't pick that up already. Also good at night because every time I came in contact with him, he obliterated me. We won't even talk about the score differential between you or me. Or maybe this is a good time to bring up wrap with how would you rate the jankiness of the game, Drew?
I mean, it was pretty well put together. Overall, not terribly janky, just not a lot going on. I feel like there was one janky moment where you hacked into the wall and I had to kill you to get you out. Yeah, so I don't know if that was you cheating or if that was jankiness. So maybe one
it
plus one
spawned
janky
me
there.
in the wall, and I appreciate it. I had to message Drew in our private hosts chat saying, Drew, come get me out of the wall. I'm stuck. Here's the thing, though. You shot me through the wall, and it killed me, which also feels a little janky. Walls are supposed to stop bullets. So there's a couple of times where I tried just like being like Jason Bourne, just one bullet for like the last half of the game rather than just spraying like you were doing.
Hey, whoa. Scoreboard.
Yes. It was like 50 to 10. But there's times where I'd like shoot and I was like, dang it, I missed. And then you die like half a second later. Like, I guess I hit. I don't know.
Yeah, slightly janky.
So slightly janky, but like some good fun. If you're looking for a good casual shooter that you can talk while you play, I recommend this one. Next episode, we're going to take a break for the second episode of this month. So first episode of 2023 is going to be on the 10th. So be there or be square. We will look forward to seeing all of you there. Anything else we should go over before we wrap and roll credits, Drew?
I don't think so.
Can you do the streamer voice?
I'm not doing the streamer voice.
Yo, this is Hester 2 and D-Money coming at you with another episode of 100X Engineering. Thank you for joining us and our guest Neil Older today. Don't forget to smash and destroy that like and subscribe button. Ring the bell. Send me Venmo, PayPal. Add me on Xbox Live. And we'll talk to you in like a month.